Good day, students. You're welcome to yet another government class with Isaac Humanitarian Foundation. This class is a class that's going to be treating the topic public opinion. Remember, in our last two classes, we talked about pressure groups and we also talked about the mass media. And I told you that there is a link, a very strong link. I used the word nexus. Nexus means link. There is a link between the mass media, pressure groups, and public opinion. And we started with the mass media. I told you how important the mass media is because the mass media is important in the issue of pressure groups. Pressure groups use the mass media to propagate their demands and to make their demands known and to share their views to other people so that other people can key into their views and join them in making their demands to the government. And I told you that in public opinion, the mass media is also very, very important because there's what we call formation of public opinion. And in formation of public opinion, a large part of our life or a large factor that help us to form particular views on government issues is the mass media. Hence, we started this topic with the mass media. The topic in general, in a general sense, is public opinion, pressure groups, and the what, and the mass media. But we started with the mass media. Our penultimate class was the mass media. Our last class was pressure groups, and in today's class we'll be studying public opinion. Now, public opinion will be studied, like I have said. We will talk about the factors that form public opinion, how we acquire our opinions, and then we will climax this class by studying the measurements of public opinion, how we can know the opinion of people with regards to a particular issue. Now, we will start with public opinion. That is a definition of public opinion. What is public opinion? Public opinion is the measurement of the views of people with regards to a government law, a government policy, or a political issue, or a political figure. What do people view, or what do people see, the people see, or what they perceive about a law, a political issue, a policy, or a personality of government is referred to as public opinion. Now remember, we cannot get the views of everybody in the land because we cannot easily aggregate the views of everyone. So public opinion cannot be defined as the views of everyone in a particular place with regards to government issues, political figures, that is people that are called statesmen or government policies. But we can define public opinion as the views of a cross-section of people. Remember, I said it is difficult to get the views of everyone in a society, but we can get the views of a substantial number of people in a society. Hence, it is better to define public opinion as the views of a cross-section of people on a government issue, political issue, or public figure. Now, public opinion can be defined as the views of a cross-section of people about a law, or let us simply put about a proposed law, government policy, or political figure. A political figure is a statesman. A statesman is an individual that has risen to prominence in the state to the tune that their views are now regarded as the views of a cross-section of people or the views of several people. An example of a statesman in Nigeria today would be Olusegun Obasanjo, who ruled as a military head of state from 1976 to 1979, and he ruled again as a democratic head of government and head of state from 1999 to 2007. Now, other important personalities like Yakubu Gowon, like Ibrahim Badamasi Babangida, these are statesmen like Senator Ahmed Bola Tinubu. These individuals that have held key positions in the country to the tune that they have a large followership, and what they say about a particular issue constitute the views of their followers on that same issue. They are called what? Statesmen. So how individuals see statesmen, for instance, you can also refer to Adams Oshomole, the erstwhile Labour leader, the erstwhile leader of the Nigerian Labour Congress, who also served as the governor of Edo State, a two-time governor of Edo State, and just recently he served as the chairman of the ruling party of Nigeria, the All Progressives Congress. So individuals who have proven their mark in different governmental fields are referred to as what? Statesmen. So how people see these people, how the generality of the people in a country see their statesmen is referred to as what? Public opinion. For instance, how we perceive the personality of Oshomole, whether we like him or not, whether he's popular or unpopular with regards to governmental issues. When we say a person is popular or a policy is popular, it means that that policy is loved by people or by a great amount of people. But when we say a person or a policy or a law is unpopular, it means that that policy, law, or person is not loved by a considerable number of people. So now when we are trying to examine whether Tinubu is loved by people, Buhari is loved by people, or the erstwhile president of Nigeria, Goodluck Jonathan from Otueke in Bayelsa State, is loved by people, all this is referred to as public opinion. Now we also say that public opinion is the views of a cross-section of people on a proposed law. Remember, laws do not come from the blues. Laws are previously bills that are debated in Parliament, and when Parliament grants their consent, they send the bill to the president for his assent, and when the president assents a bill, the bill becomes what? Law. Before a bill is discussed in Parliament, the views of the people of the state with regards to that bill that is being discussed with the aim of transforming the bill into a law is also called what? Public opinion. And of course, we know several governmental policies, like when government imposes a curfew on the people. Now, how we perceive this curfew, whether we think that this curfew is good for us or bad for us, is referred to as what? Public opinion. So generally, public opinion can be defined as the views of a cross-section of people about a government policy, proposed law, or political figures. I believe you don't understand me. Now, having defined public opinion, let us now talk about the factors that form public opinion, the things that make us have particular opinions about particular issues. What gives us a biased mind about issues? Or why is it that we hold certain opinions about some issues and we do not want to change those opinions? Now, when you have strong opinions about a particular issue, to the tune that it will be very, very difficult for you to change your mind on that issue, it can be said that you are opinionated. Now, so what makes you opinionated can simply be said, or simply we can simply use the catchy phrase, factors that form public what? Opinion. Factors that form or shaping public opinion. Now, we'll start with the smallest unit of the society. Every society's smallest unit is the family. Alright? So, number one factor that shapes public opinion or that forms public opinion is the family. Number two, factors, let's speak the right factors. Factors that form public opinion. Or we can simply call these factors that shaping public opinion, or factors in the formation of public opinion. Like I said previously, number one, family. Number two, education. Number three, religion. Number 4, peer group. And number 5, personal interest. Now, generally speaking, the views of your parents and your siblings to a very great extent shapes your view on the same issue. How your parents perceive a particular governmental issue to a great extent will form your own opinion about that issue. So what this means is that the first point of shaping our public opinion, the first point that shaping our public opinion is our family. Now, in the United States, where political parties have clear ideologies, if parents are Republicans, there is a very high likelihood that the children of those parents will also be Republicans. If parents are Democrats, there is a high likelihood that the children will be Democrats, because the parents have inculcated their ideologies on their children. And so the younger ones the elder ones who have been inculcated by the ideology of their parents will also inculcate this ideology on the younger ones. So to a very great extent, the family that we belong to shapes our opinion. For instance, if some of us that are Christians in Nigeria, if we were born in, let's say, Syria, to Muslim families, we would have been Muslims. So one great factor that influences our opinion about religion is our family. 90%, if not more, of people that practice a particular religion practice that religion because of the environment that they find themselves, because of the different families that surrounds them. Are we together? Now, number 2 reason number 2 factor that shapes or forms public opinion is education. You know, sometimes educated people, you enter into discussions with regards to politics with some people, and then you want to throw up, you tend to reason their shallow minds. You are talking to some people about a particular governmental issue, and when you hear their own opinion, you are irritated. It is because they lack education. And of course, they are ignorant. For instance, in Nigeria today, there is a great number of people, even some literates, believe that coronavirus is just a myth, that because they have not seen anybody that has been infected. And you know, in this part of the world where people are easily stereotyped, where people are easily victimized and stigmatized, even it is very difficult to see a person that has HIV. Even though a great number of Nigerians are suffering from the virus, but people hide their details with regards to viruses, because so that they will not be stigmatized. So because you have not seen somebody, doesn't mean that there are not people even around you, but they have decided to conceal their status so that they will not be stigmatized. So now when people are educated, it tends to influence the way they reason about a particular governmental issue, unlike when they are not educated. For instance, an illiterate will say that considering the level of moral decadence in Nigeria and the level of insecurity, that the military should come back to rule us, because they did not know the problems and the maltreatment that the civilians will get from the military if the military comes back to rule us. Just imagine, even in democratic setting, we still have military personnel who are just corporals in the military oppressing civilians because they are putting on the khaki, the camouflage. Just imagine when they are now the ones that are also controlling Aso Rock, how they will feel. So because of lack of education and the lack of knowledge of history and government in schools, some people are clamoring for a rebirth of military rule. Are we together? And but educated people will not clamor for a rebirth of military rule because they know of the harms that the military government can met out on people. Are we together, class? Now, number 3 factor that shapes our public opinion or our opinion about public issues is our religion. Are we together? Now, for instance, some people will clamor for the disbandment, for the ban on the wearing of hijab in secondary schools, for reasons being that it tends to add an additional uniform to an already existing uniform. Hijabs are not part of the uniforms. Then it does not make students uniform. It reduces the uniformity in the outfit of students. So some Christians, we say let hijab be banned. Why will students cover their face and some others will not cover their face in the same school? That what is the essence of being uniform in a school? But the Muslims will say no, that hijab is part of their religion, and so the government cannot stop Muslims from practicing their religion to the best of their ability. Now, so our religion to a very great extent shapes our opinion. For instance, Jehovah's Witnesses, whose religion do not allow them vote during elections, are apolitical. They are not interested in the politics of the land, so they do not even know what is happening in the land, and they cannot even give their own opinion about governmental issues because their religion forbids them from voting during elections. Are we together? But some other denominations, the leaders of some other denominations even encourage their members to participate in politics. So to a very great extent, as I have said, our religion or our religious background or our religious doctrine shapes how we see governmental policies or laws. Are we together, class? Now, number 4 is our peer group. There is a maxim, show me your friends and I will tell you who you are, or birds of a feather flock together. Now, to a very great extent, we see political figures. We see government policies or proposed laws from the binoculars of our friends. Most times, when we are vulnerable, we do not have knowledge about a particular idea. It is what or a particular governmental issue. It is what our friends tell us about that issue that we see and we take. Are we together? So the people you move around with tend to shaping your views about governmental issues. If you have PDP friends, there is a very great likelihood that you will be pro-PDP. If you have APC friends, there is a likelihood that you'll be what? Pro-APC and anti-what? PDP. Are we together, class? So the people we move with, our peer group, shaping our opinion about governmental issues. And lastly, number 5, our personal interest. Now, you know, in life, there is no personal friends. We do not have personal enemies. What is personal? We do not have permanent enemies, rather. We do not have permanent friends. What we have as permanent is interest. Our interests make us friends to people and make us enemies to people. Are we together? Prior to the 2015 presidential elections, Tinubu and Buhari were not friends, but they had a common enemy in PDP, and so they had to put their interests together. They had to articulate their interests, and then they fought PDP. Now their differences are now beginning to surface, but their differences were put aside because they had to put their interests first, and their interest was to what? Unseat PDP. Are we together, class? So when you like a particular candidate, or you like a particular political figure, it is because you feel that you will benefit from that figure if that figure is controlling government. To a very great extent, we want a particular candidate to win elections because we have affinities with that candidate. We know that when that candidate wins, we have a good opportunity of controlling government with that candidate and having our own slice of the what? National cake. I believe you don't understand me. Now we will now cross over to the measurement of public opinion. How can we measure the opinion of a party of the people with regards to persons or laws? How do we know whether a particular governmental policy enjoys public opinion from the people, or whether the public opinion favors a person or a governmental law? Now, when we want to ascertain whether public opinion favors an individual in government, or favors a proposed law, or favors a governmental policy, we will what? Measure public opinion. Are we together, class? So in this aspect, we're going to be talking about measurement of what? Public opinion. Now, the number 1 way to measure public opinion is through elections. Number 1, through elections. A study of elections, or of study of elections / voting patterns. Study of elections / voting patterns. Number 2, we can measure public opinions through protests / demonstrations. Number 3, we can measure public opinion through the use of opinion polls. Number 4, we can measure public opinion through referendum. Number 5, we can measure public opinion through plebiscite. Now, with regards to factors that form public opinion, I left one key factor away, and that factor is I left it aside rather, and that factor is the mass media. The mass media is the crux of this topic, the mass media. And in the mass media, a growing part of the mass media is what is called the new media or the social media. To a very great extent, the social media influences our opinion about issues. The proposed law or the governmental figure that is able to use the mass media to his or her advantage has a greater chance to enjoy public opinion from the masses rather, because a generality of the people are influenced by the mass media, because one way or the other we use the mass media on our daily basis, especially the new media on daily basis, Twitter, Facebook, and now WhatsApp, that can share news within the speed of light, and all these platforms can easily be used as propagandist tool or as a tool for rhetorics with the aim of convincing people to have a favorable opinion about political figures or governmental policies. Now, so the mass media is very, very strong in influencing the opinion of people. That is why in Nigeria's politics, the candidate that has the resources to use the mass media to his advantage is most likely to win elections. Alright, now talking about measurements of public opinion. Number 1 is elections. Now, for instance, if we want to know whether Nigerians are favoring a particular ideology, now we will now look at the political party that propagates that ideology. And if the political party that propagates that ideology has been winning elections over the years, we will know that, oh, of course, Nigerians favor that ideology. For instance, if we want to know whether Nigerians like Buhari, or whether in 2015 Nigerians loved the political figure of Muhammadu Buhari than the political figure of Goodluck Jonathan, your guess is as good as mine. The public opinion of Nigerians favored Muhammadu Buhari. That was why Muhammadu Buhari came out victorious in the 2015 elections. So elections are a great tool to measure public opinion. For instance, if we want to know whether the Yorubas are loved by a generality of Nigerians across the Yoruba race, we will study voting patterns. Whether Yorubas, when they contested with other people as presidents of Nigeria, or with other ethnic groups as presidents of Nigeria, whether they won or they lost. MKO Abiola, Moshood Kashimawo Olawale Abiola used to be the first Yoruba man to win presidential elections. So now when we want to study the opinion of Nigerians with regards to the Yorubas, we will now go back to memory lane and study how the Yorubas fared in federal elections. Are we together? Now, number 2, protests and demonstrations. For instance, if the government proposes a policy and there is widespread protests and demonstrations by the public, there is industrial strike and there is boycott, it is audible to the deaf and visible to the blind that that particular policy does not enjoy the opinion or a favorable opinion from the people. So now the government can use protests and demonstrations to know that their policies are not loved by the people, and when this happens, they decide to throw or trash that policy. For instance, the removal of the fuel subsidy by the government of Goodluck Jonathan was met with widespread protests and demonstrations, and this to a great extent influenced Goodluck Jonathan to revoke or trash that policy. Now, number 3, opinion polls. Now, opinion polls are a way of sampling the opinion of people. Now, opinion polls in more recent times use what they call the random sample. Now, opinion polls comes in the form of a questionnaire. For instance, in Nigeria today, newspapers, mostly on the internet, will just provide the pictures of Jonathan, for instance, and Buhari, and ask you to use certain policy issues or certain governmental issues or certain parameters to judge them. And with your opinions about these people, we are able to measure how they are loved. Now, for instance, this happened in 2015, and then it was a reflection. The public opinion was a reflection of the elections, or the elections was a reflection of the public opinion, because when the opinion polls were conducted by newspapers, more people ticked on the pictures of Buhari, and of course the elections brought into clear relief the fact that Nigerians loved Buhari more than Jonathan. Now, if we now want to ascertain whether the love of Nigerians to Buhari still exists as it were in 2015, we will now carry out a random sample. There are different opinion poll companies. They can just call people randomly. There is what they call the random sample, or the random dialing, when the phones will just randomly dial numbers of people, and you answer the call and they ask you, are you still in favor of the government of Buhari? Now they will now aggregate, after they have made all their calls, they will now aggregate the calls and know the particular individual or candidate that enjoys more opinion or more views, more favorable views from the people. I believe you do understand me. So opinion polls are questionnaires that help opinion poll conductors to ascertain the views of the generality of the people on a particular governmental issue, political figure, or law. Now, we have what we call referendum. Referendum is a direct vote, a direct yes or no vote on a law or on a constitutional amendment. Now, when you have a yes or no vote, when the government just asks you to come and vote, tick on the paper, yes or no, whether you are in favor of them making a law or amending the constitution, that yes or no vote, a direct yes or no vote on the making of a new law or the amendment of a constitution, is called a referendum. A referendum is closely linked to a plebiscite. Now, we can say that all referendums, we can say that all plebiscites are referendums, but not all referendums are plebiscites. I will explain. I told you, a referendum is simply a yes or no vote on an issue of government. When you vote yes or no on an issue of government, particularly issues of the making of new laws or the amendment of the constitution. However, a plebiscite is a yes or no vote on two key issues. Number one, issue of sovereignty, and issue of secession. Secession is the breakaway of a part of a country to form its own independent country, and sovereignty is the absolute power of a state to make its decisions without depending on other states for support or without any form of external interference. Sovereignty comes with independence. So when a state has independence, the state has sovereignty. So when a state or a part of a country has successfully seceded, or has successfully carried out a secession bid, that part of the state will now be what? A sovereign. It will now have the quality of sovereignty. So when, for instance, there is a yes or no vote in Nigeria on whether that is carried out by only the Igbos, when the federal government administers a yes or no vote for the Igbos on whether they want to remain with Nigeria or go with the Republic of Biafra, that yes or no vote is a plebiscite. It's a what last? Plebiscite, and it is also what? A referendum. Every plebiscite is part of a referendum. It is a type of a referendum, but not all plebiscites are what? Referendums. But not all referendums are what? Plebiscites. I believe you don't understand me. When the yes or no vote is with regards to an issue of secession, a part of a country breaking away from that country to form its own country, that yes or no vote is called what? A plebiscite. For instance, the yes or no vote conducted in Britain on whether Britain on whether they should remain with the EU, that yes or no vote is referred to what? A plebiscite, because it had to do with issues of sovereignty. because when the British government remains a member of the European Union, it gives a part of its powers to the European Union. So the European Union will now have some level of interference in the internal activities of Britain. So now when we are voting on an issue that will affect sovereignty or on an issue of secession, that voting is called what? A plebiscite, and it's a way of assessing or measuring the views of people. But now when we are voting on any particular governmental issue, for instance, the amendment of a constitution or the making of a new law, that voting is called what? A referendum. I believe to a very great extent I have been able to dissect the issue of public opinion. Until I see you again in our next class, stay safe. Thank you very much.